All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a genuinely powerful guide on how to reclaim your authenticity. In our hyper-connected world, it's never been easier to get completely overwhelmed by this relentless feedback loop of other people's expectations. We're literally drowning in opinions, and honestly, it's draining. So we're going to unpack exactly how to break free from these exhausting pressures and the toxic environments that are actively holding us back. Because you weren't born to live some watered-down version of someone else's life, right? Or to spend your precious days trying to manage everyone else's emotions. Let's jump right into the material and figure out how to take your power back.
So, are you living for you? It's kind of a piercing question, isn't it? Take a second and really reflect on your life right now. Think about the decisions you've made just this past week, or maybe even the major trajectory of your career. Did you choose your path because it actually sparked something inside of you? Or was it just to make your family proud? Did you agree to go to that draining Saturday dinner just to keep the peace and appease a group of friends? We do this all the time. We find ourselves functioning on autopilot, making daily choices not because they bring us genuine happiness, but simply to avoid ruffling feathers.
Section 1. The Belonging Trap. Let's take a look at the hidden danger of simply trying to fit in.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that as human beings, we're totally hardwired to want to belong. Evolutionarily speaking, staying with the tribe meant you survived. So caring about your place in the group, completely natural. But here is where it gets tricky. That totally natural desire can easily mutate into a trap. We start twisting ourselves to fit into the crowd, altering our beliefs and policing our own behaviors. And the great irony of this whole trap is revealed right here in the 95-to-5 rule. We'll spend hours agonizing over what others think of us, but 95% of the time, people are entirely consumed by thinking about themselves. Maybe, just maybe, 5% of the time, they're thinking about you. Think about the last time you tripped in public. You probably thought the whole street was staring and judging you. But in reality, everyone else was just worrying about their own awkward moments or what they're having for lunch. It's actually incredibly freeing to realize that people are just way too busy worrying about their own insecurities to obsessively judge yours.
Section 2. The cost of caring. Because we really need to look at what exactly happens when we lose ourselves to the crowd. It takes a heavy toll. When you constantly live for the approval of others, it sets off this devastating, almost invisible chain reaction. And it rarely happens all at once. It starts small. You bite your tongue in a meeting to avoid disagreeing with the room. Boom, you lose your voice. And since you aren't expressing yourself, you start to resent the work. The energy drains out of your days. You lose your joy. Then, you sideline that passion project or that bold career move because your peers might think it's foolish. You lose your dreams. And if you play this tape all the way to the end, you wake up at 50 or 60 years old, looking back with a profound sense of regret. It is an overwhelming accumulation of lost potential. You absolutely cannot live for the crowd and keep your joy. The two simply cannot coexist. Here's a crucial psychological reality you need to anchor yourself to. Other people's opinions come from their own fears and their own limits. Look, people are always going to have something to say, but you have to understand the concept of projection. When someone looks at your ambition and says, "Oh, that's way too risky," what they're actually saying is, "I am too afraid to take that risk." When they say, "Wow, you've changed," it usually just means you're no longer conforming to the box that was convenient for me. Their judgments are not your truth, and they are absolutely not your destiny. They're carrying around this heavy bag of limitations, and when they hand it to you, you do not have to take it. Don't carry a burden that never even belonged to you in the first place.
Section 3. Escaping toxic environments. Let's shift gears from that internal mental prison to the physical realities of our daily lives.
Toxicity isn't just a bad attitude. It actively manifests in draining relationships, unbalanced friendships, toxic family dynamics, and hostile workplaces. You know you're in one when you constantly feel small, guilty, anxious, or completely unvalued. It's that exhausting hypervigilance, walking on eggshells. Imagine drafting a simple text message to a friend 5 different times, meticulously analyzing every single word just to make sure you don't trigger a blowout argument. Or physically shrinking yourself in a meeting so a fragile boss doesn't feel threatened by your competence. If you're experiencing these symptoms, your environment is actively, aggressively dimming your light. And honestly, validating this reality is the vital first step to realizing you deserve better.
Just let this sink in for a second. You simply cannot grow in soil that poisons you. Think of a seed planted in solid concrete or a vibrant plant shoved into a completely dark room. You could have all the talent, all the drive, and all the ambition in the world, but if your environment is toxic, your growth is fundamentally capped. Holding on to toxic jobs or draining relationships keeps you totally stuck, It actively deteriorates your mental health. And here's the thing, you cannot outwork or outpositive a toxic environment. If the soil is poison, the only solution is to uproot yourself and find better ground.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 4, Steps to Break Free. We've talked about the problem, now let's get into some actionable solutions. Freedom starts the exact moment you decide you finally deserve peace, but you need a practical procedure to actually get there. Step 1 is to recognize what hurts, and you have to be specific here. Don't be vague, name it. My boss texting me at 9 p.m. is ruining my evenings. Step 2 is setting clear boundaries. You must be willing to say, I won't accept this. In practice, this means saying, I am offline after 6 p.m. without attaching a rambling 3-paragraph apology to the end of your sentence. No is a complete sentence. And step 3 is absolutely crucial. Replace what you let go of with good things. When you remove a toxic habit or a draining person, it creates a vacuum in your life. If you don't intentionally fill that empty space with a new hobby, a positive friend, or a healthy routine, the toxicity is just going to seep right back in.
Now, a lot of people get tripped up on this transition because they confuse selfishness with self-respect. Let's clear this up right now. Setting boundaries and protecting your peace is not selfish. But here's the secret that keeps people stuck. When you first start setting these boundaries, you are going to feel incredibly guilty. Society conditions us to be so accommodating, so when you finally say no, it feels like a betrayal. But really, that guilt is basically just people-pleasing withdrawal. It's a growing pain. Feeling guilty doesn't mean you're making the wrong choice. It just means you're breaking an old, deeply ingrained habit. You do not owe anyone your peace. Making the choice to walk away from toxicity, that is pure self-respect.
Section 5. Reclaiming your peace. So, how do we define what actually matters as we move forward? Now that you're clearing out the toxic soil, you really have to internalize that it is perfectly okay to disappoint people who don't support your growth. When you change the rules of a relationship and actually start standing up for yourself, some people are going to get mad. Losing the approval of those people is simply the price of admission for finding yourself. Your only job in this life is to be proud of your own choices and to be kind along the way. If someone is genuinely upset that you're establishing healthy boundaries and growing as a person, it honestly just means they preferred you when you were small and easy to control. That is their limit, not yours.
Because ultimately, peace is your greatest wealth. Not status, not the amount of party invitations you receive, and certainly not the fleeting approval of people who barely even know you. Think about the profound physical relief finally dropping a heavy act. No more performing, no more wearing the exhausting armor of everyone else's expectations. True wealth is going to sleep at night with a completely quiet mind, knowing you are authentic to yourself that day. Life is entirely too short to be a second-rate copy of someone else. Walk away from anything that costs you your peace and be the original you. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. What is one toxic thing you will walk away from today to protect your peace? Don't wait for a better time or a New Year's resolution. Take immediate action right now, claim your self-respect, and start actively living your life for you. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it gave you the clarity and the courage to move forward.